y'all, what's up? This your girl Kshalonte. What it is or what it ain't, what it's gonna be. Back with another motherfucking video. If you're new to my channel, what's up? What's good, baby? Yeah. And if you already a subscriber, thank y'all so much for the love and the support. Your girl definitely appreciate it. In today's video, for the very first time ever, I'm going to practice how to apply acrylic and shape my acrylic nails. I've been wanting to learn how to correctly apply acrylic and achieve the liquid to powder ratio for some time, y'all, for real. And I'm like, okay, what's stopping me? I might as well get into it, okay, period. I want y'all to be a part of my very own beginner nail journey, which I will be making this a series to keep track of my progress. That way I will be able to look back and see my growth and show how far I've come, which is super freaking exciting, y'all. If you are a beginner trying to learn acrylic nails, then we are on the same journey together. I included some bomb-ass nail techs videos within this video to help me on my journey that I love to watch and learn from. There is nothing wrong with learning from multiple people because everyone has tips that can help you on your learning journey. I teach makeup and I am a makeup artist, so I tell people this all the time. You can definitely learn from me and you can definitely pick up tips from me, but don't limit yourself. You can also pick up knowledge from others, allowing you to put it to use in your own special way. Wow, we are on the topic of learning. Go ahead and check out my Beginners Friendly Ultimate Makeup Guide series. We are taking it back to the motherfucking basics of learning and educating ourselves on makeup, okay? All of the products that I am using in this video will be listed in the description below. Right now, I am prepping the nail with the E-file and the regular file. That way, I can apply the press-on nail with glue for it to stick. After I finish prepping the nail, I will not be doing any talking. I will be showing y'all videos of the YouTubers that I watched during this process. And I will also put their channel name at the very bottom. Towards the end of this video, I will give y'all my final thoughts. So without further ado, let's vibe.
The most important things when it comes to acrylic application is getting your liquid to powder ratio down perfect, and that's going to help tremendously with your application. So I'm going to go over it very quickly with you guys. If you guys still struggle with it, make sure you guys check out my liquid to powder ratio video before, and that's going to help you a lot. I go really in depth, but for the purpose of today's video, we're going to be just quickly going over it. So I went ahead and grabbed a large bead of acrylic. That's going to be our first bead. You want to fully submerge your brush, lightly kiss the side of your Dappen dish, turn your hand, and then dip 3 times for a large bead. And as you can see, that was not a perfect bead, and I'm going to share with you why. So you see how there's like creases and divots in the powder. You want to tap it on your desk or on whatever surface to kind of fluff it out, and it'll help you get a perfect bead every time. So again, you're going to submerge your brush into your monomer all the way. Lightly kiss the side of your Dappen dish. Tap very gently, tap, turn your brush, tap 3 times into your powder, and then you have the perfect consistency of an acrylic bead. Now we're going to be moving on to the medium bead, and here I'm going to be sharing with you how you should be turning your brush whenever you're going to pick up your bead. So you basically submerge, tap the amount you want to remove, and then turn your brush very lightly. Once you get the hang of it, it's like second nature and you don't even think about turning it, it just happens. So we're going to be doing a medium-sized bead. For a medium-sized bead, we're going to be tapping off about half of the liquid. So mid-point of your brush, you're going to scrape, turn your hand and your brush, tap 2 times. 1, 2, and that creates the perfect medium-sized bead of acrylic. So again, tap off your acrylic so that it fluffs out. Halfway, scrape on your Dappen dish, tap twice, medium-sized bead. And if you follow these directions, you're gonna get the perfect bead every single time. So we're gonna be fluffing it out, scraping off half of the liquid, tapping twice. Again, perfect medium-sized bead. And of course, the sizes are gonna vary depending on the size of your brush, so always keep that in mind. Tapping off half, turning my brush, and then we're going to be picking up the perfect bead again. Now for the small bead, we're going to be scraping off the entire side of the brush, tapping once, and then you have the perfect small bead. So we're gonna scrape off the liquid all the way, turn our brush, tap once, and you have a small bead. So again, submerge, tap all the excess off, tap once, and then again, small bead of acrylic. Super simple if you follow these steps. I hope it helps you guys, but once you get this down, your application will be so much smoother. So here I'm just showing a close-up of the large beads, medium beads, and the small beads. Now before we get into our brush, tap your down perfect. Thoughts are on those forms. And then of course an 8-ounce when it comes to acrylic application is getting your liquid to powder ratio down perfect, and that's going to help tremendously with your application. So I'm going to go over it very quickly with you guys. If you guys still struggle with it, make sure you guys check out my liquid to powder ratio video before, and that's going to help you a lot. I go really in depth, but for the purpose of today's video, we're going to be just quickly going over it. So I went ahead and grabbed a large bead of acrylic. That's going to be our first bead. You want to fully submerge your brush, lightly kiss the side of your Dappen dish, turn your hand, and then dip 3 times for a large bead. And as you can see, that was not a perfect bead, and I'm going to share with you why. So you see how there's like creases and divots in the powder. You want to tap it on your desk or on whatever surface to kind of fluff it out, and it'll help you get a perfect bead every time. So again, you're going to submerge your brush into your monomer all the way, lightly kiss the side of your Dappen dish, tap very gently, tap, turn your brush, tap 3 times into your powder, and then you have the perfect consistency of an acrylic bead. Now we're going to be moving on to the medium bead, and here I'm going to be sharing with you how you should be turning your brush whenever you're going to pick up your bead. So you basically submerge, tap the amount you want to remove, and then turn your brush very lightly. Once you get the hang of it, it's like second nature and you don't even think about turning it, it just happens. So we're going to be doing a medium-sized bead. For a medium-sized bead, we're going to be tapping off about half of the liquid. So mid-point of your brush, you're going to scrape, turn your hand and your brush, tap 2 times. 1, 2, and that creates the perfect medium-sized bead of acrylic. So again, tap off your acrylic so that it fluffs out. Halfway, scrape on your Dappen dish, tap twice, medium-sized bead. And if you follow these directions, you're gonna get the perfect bead every single time. So we're gonna be fluffing it out, scraping off half of the liquid, tapping twice. Again, perfect medium-sized bead. And of course, the sizes are going to vary depending on the size of your brush, so always keep that in mind. Tapping off half, turning my brush, and then we're going to be picking up the perfect bead again. Now for the small bead, we're going to be scraping off the entire side of the brush, tapping once, and then you have the perfect small bead. So we're gonna scrape off the liquid all the way, turn our brush, tap once, and you have a small bead. So again, submerge, tap all the excess off, tap once, and then again, small bead of acrylic. Super simple if you follow these steps. I hope it helps you guys, but once you get this down, your application will be so much smoother. So here I'm just showing a close-up of the large beads, medium beads, and the small beads.
We're going to get into how I got this beautiful application, but first I wanted to go over a few things. Things as in liquid to powder ratio, how to pick up the proper bead, and all of those things. First things first, is very important even the way that you pick up your monomer onto your brush. The way that you pick up the liquid as well as how much will determine the size and the consistency of your bead, right? So right now I'm showing you guys the motion in which I use to pick up my liquid or my monomer. Normally I would tap my brush on the edge of my the rim of it. However, because this one has the ridges, it does this funky thing to my brush. So what I do is I dip it in my monomer and I tap it on the side walls of the Dappen dish to release the liquid, as much liquid as I want. The more liquid you release, of course, the less liquid will be in your brush, resulting in a smaller bead. The less liquid you release, of course, the more liquid you will have in your brush, resulting in a larger bead. After tapping the desired amount of liquid from one side of my brush, I flip it over to the opposite side and use that to pick up the bead. That's very important. So whatever side you do not tap off the liquid from, use that side to pick up your bead. And you guys will see me demonstrate that here a few times. However, right now I am demonstrating how I go in and dip my brush into my acrylic powder at a 45-degree angle. If you don't want to dip the brush in there straight down, you don't want to dip it in there and drag it. You don't want to do any of that. You want to dip it in there at a 45-degree angle, which you guys can see me do here. And you want to tap it into that acrylic powder. You don't want to drag it. Now here it will look like I kind of dragged it only because I'm picking this acrylic jar up, and it's hard for me because I'm trying to show you guys the angle in which I'm doing it, which is at a 45-degree angle. So it's kind of tilted, but it looks as if I dragged it or kind of drug it a little bit. However, I did not. I just tapped it right down in there. And also because I do have it picked up instead of sitting down on the table like it normally would be, it looks like the acrylic, because your goal when you're picking up a bead is that you want the acrylic only on one side, and that is why you want to do it at a 45-degree angle, because the acrylic should only be on one side of the brush. It should not be on both sides. You should not dip your brush straight down in there. It should be at a 45-degree angle. Also, when picking up my beads, I normally tap into the acrylic 3 times, something like that is good to start off with. So you want to practice with tapping your monomer off your brush, and then you want to practice tapping it into the acrylic at a 45-degree angle a few times. Now, of course, the more you tap into acrylic powder, the more acrylic that will be on your brush, and also, like I said, the more liquid that you release from dipping into the Dappen dish with a monomer, the more liquid you release, the less you'll have on your brush, resulting in a smaller bead. And the less liquid you tap off your brush, the more monomer your brush will hold, resulting in a larger bead. What you guys just saw demonstrated in that bead there, I barely tapped any liquid off my bead. I dipped it into the acrylic powder and a few times. Also, the more you tap, like I said, the larger your bead will be. That is how we were able to accomplish that large bead there, the last one there. As well as when you tap into the acrylic powder, holding it there longer as well will result in a larger bead. So right there, I just demonstrated a no-no. You do not want to drag your brush in your acrylic powder. You do not want to drag your brush into your acrylic powder. You want to tap, not drag. As you can see, with dragging the acrylic or the brush in the acrylic, you can see that the bead was inconsistent. It was not a great bead at all. It was on the sides of the brush. It was on the top of the brush. You only want the acrylic to be on one side. As you can see, that bead I just did right there, it was also a no-no. You don't want to dip your brush straight into the acrylic powder. You want to do it at a 45-degree angle. Like I said, again, you will have acrylic on the top of the brush, the sides of the brush. You don't want that. You want the acrylic to be on one side, just like this here. One side only. That will result in a great release from the brush when you're applying your acrylic and just make everything more smoother and easygoing. You can definitely tell the difference in dragging and tapping the brush into the acrylic powder. There with those demonstrations, as well as doing it at a 45-degree angle and holding the brush straight down in there. You do not want to do that. So just a small recap before we move into the next stage. You want to practice dipping your brush into your monomer. You want to practice releasing liquid from your monomer. You want to practice dip, and then when you release it from your brush, you want to flip it over and use the other side to dip it into your acrylic powder. And when you dip it into your acrylic powder, you want to practice at tapping, not dragging, and doing it at a 45-degree angle. All right, moving on, I wanted to talk about brushes. Brushes absolutely 1000% does matter when you are doing acrylic application. It can literally make or break it. So I recommend investing in a good quality brush. This one here I absolutely love and I highly recommend it. Anyone interested in this brush can click Nail House's link in the description below, as well as use my code Portia for savings. So as you guys can see, the tip of that brush is very flat, and I've trained it to be that way. And I'll tell you guys here in a moment why it is important for it to be, or why it works for me, and it's important for me for a brush to be flat at the tip. However, the way I train my brush to be flat like that is just how you saw me do a moment ago. Is I take my fingers and I just rub my fingers along the brush after every single application, and I rub it on a paper towel. I do that every single time. I leave it like that, and it's ready to go for the next application. Alright, so now that we went over that and how to pick up a proper bead, liquid powder ratio, and all of those kind of things, we're moving into application now, y'all. So I like to place my first bead right where the tip of the natural nail meets. That is where my first bead goes. When you're doing application, you also want to make sure that your brush is somewhat wet or like damp, so that you're able to glide the acrylic down the nail easier and smoother. Every bead that you place down, you want to make sure that it is spread from sidewall to sidewall. Now, I don't have any specific technique like a 2-bead method or anything like that. Since I do super long nails, it is impossible really for me to do like 1 to 2 bead methods for proper structure. So I just go with as many beads as I feel necessary, as well as I suggest you guys do the same and don't fret or try to, you know, be so worried about how many beads, right? So after I place that first bead right where the tip and the natural nail meet, I go ahead right above that one. And the reason why you want to go in with the next bead right above that one is so that we can start creating that apex there. I apply my bead pretty much like right on top of that other one, but not quite. I apply it a little bit above the other one so that we can start creating that hump, which is our apex, right? That makes sense because it's like we're kind of creating a heel, and in order to create a heel, you have to kind of pile, you know, things on top of each other, but we're not piling it directly on top of each other. It's kind of like right above it, but kind of on top of it, if that makes sense. So you're going in with even more acrylic. And another key and trick to creating your apex is that when you, and that goes for all the beads really in general, but especially when we get into that apex area, when you begin applying those apex beads, you do not want to go in and wipe them immediately, because you want it to set a little bit in mold before you begin wiping it away. Because if you do that, you'll wipe all the acrylic you just laid away. So you want to let it sit just for a few seconds and go ahead and mold. And even when you do start swiping, you want to swipe from the bottom of those beads. You never ever want to swipe from the top of your beads, because you'll just wipe it all away, like that whole structure you just laid. Getting into those cuticle beads. Now, when you're placing your cuticle bead, you want to apply it below the cuticle. You never want to apply it directly on the cuticle. You want to apply it below it, and then you want to push it up into the cuticle area, and then you want to swipe from there. But before you begin swiping, just like all of the beads, but especially those apex and cuticle beads, you want to make sure that you are spreading them from sidewall to sidewall. And the way I spread mine from sidewall to sidewall is that you can see, especially in the cuticle area, because my brush is a size 16, it is a little bit larger. I do use like those sides of the brush to kind of like pat it into that cuticle area. Another very important tip when you are working with acrylic is that you want to be gentle. especially when in that cuticle area, because it's very easy to be heavy-handed and kind of like swipe too hard or push too hard, or you know, you want to be very gentle. The acrylic is going to spread regardless. You want to work as smart as possible and let the acrylic work for you, and don't be too stressed about it. That acrylic is going to spread. Just push it up into that cuticle area, let it spread a little bit, make sure it's into those side walls, and swipe down. Also, what you guys just saw me do there is how I like to take my brush to swipe the sides of the nail, so that you guys will see me do that like 10 billion times during the application. I like to take my brush and wipe the sides of the nail so that I can keep my shape during the application. You want to work, again, smarter and not harder. The smoother your application is, and the, you know, better shaped it is, and the better you keep the shape together throughout the application, the less filing you have to do. And I'll insert a quick replay of what I meant by swiping the sides of the nails. And I also like to do it with the brush the long way instead of the short way, which you guys will see in the replay I'm about to put right now. So this right here, I am demonstrating the motion in which I don't like to do it. I like to do it this way, the long way. I just kind of, you know, clean up those sides so that I can keep my shape.
These were some of the nails we built out yesterday. This was a really kind of a long nail, and I want to be able to point something out here. Notice that the sides here are slightly bowed. All right, you can see on this side as well, they're slightly bowed. Since I am right-handed and I'm always going to put a lot more pressure on this side, I'm always going to start with my left first. So where I want to put pressure is right here in the middle. So if as I am putting pressure and filing towards the side, you notice that the only thing I'm looking at is the blue side of the file. So I do have room to file, and I'm going to continue to file until that edge gets really, really straight. So you can see already the dramatic difference, right? And you can notice from the amount of bulk that I have here, right? You could see how straight I'm actually able to get that side. So that is a huge difference right there, right? So I'm putting a lot of pressure at that high point right there, and I'm keeping contact. So I'm not swiveling my file. I'm trying to keep as much pressure as I can at that point to get my edges as straight as I possibly can. So this side here, right, my pressure is going to be, you can see, I'm swiveling out the file. You can see a little bit of space being built out, but I want to be able to do the same thing. I want to try to keep contact with that point and really try to get that edge straight, right? So if we're trying to make something extremely straight on both sides for, say, a coffin or a stiletto nail, you're going to notice the difference right off the bat. Boom. Okay, so this front end, I could either square or taper. The lower, right here, the lower arch, it's always a matter of trying to keep contact from the lowest point in, right? So I always explain, if you turn the hand to the side, right? If you're turning the hand to the side just like this, I'll show you on this hand, and you look at this and you're like, okay, I want to get this side straight. And you just take the hand file here and you just start pulling in like this. The biggest problem that a lot of beginners make is they end up filing that notch. You see that notch right there in the corner? So if you look at your own nails and you look at that, and it's usually because, again, you feel, well, I'm going to get my edges straight, so I'm just going to take my hand file and I'm just going to come in and try to file this in. Then what ends up happening when you do that is you end up building, again, you can see, I end up building a little bit of a notch right here on the side. I end up building a notch right here on the side. So what we have to do to prevent that from happening, like if you're looking at the nail, right, from the side profile, right? Let's say this is the nail from the side profile. And this part of the lower arch, there's a little bit of acrylic or say gel that's hanging, right? And what you're trying to do is you're trying to file it even with this, right? So the end of the growth channel as it extends out. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to line the file, right, at the lowest point. And then what we want to be able to do is file until the hand file reaches that point right there, okay? That's really important. You don't want to start from the corner and try to file up, or right? Or just try to get, again, the edge in. Like, again, the biggest mistake is filing into the corner like this, because then what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up building, you know, these really, really bad notches on the sides. You know, so for those of you guys that put tips on or glue tips on and you try to file the edges in and you notice this, it's because you're not paying attention, right? You're going to end up filing that much of your lower arch away, right? The extension. So the part that extends from here out to the end of the free edge, that is considered your lower arch. So what you want to do, again, you'll see here with this, I'm trying to get this as straight as I can, but like here on this one, there's a little bit of a bend. If I'm keeping this in contact, again, with that point, and you can see like my hand file is always going to run parallel to the finger. So wherever that low point is, I'm trying to file in, right, keeping contact with that point in order for me to get my extensions completely straight off the sides like that. It's the same on the opposite side. You want to be able to line your file at that lowest point and file up so that your extension from the end of that lower arch all the way out to that point is going to be razor sharp. Once you're done filing your 5 points, then it's a matter, again, of using the I formation roadmap. So if I draw the letter I all the way through here, okay? Connect that. If I draw a letter I all the way through here, I have to remember that this part right here, right? That part of the I is going to represent, this part of the I right here is going to represent my upper arch, right? So if I'm filing length like this, I can't have my bit all the way in. I have to be able to pull the bit out, right? Because you don't want the nose to hit it. And then whatever speed I'm running it at, let's say I'm running it around, 14,000 RPMs. This gives me an opportunity to come in through. I want to be able to work in one direction towards myself. Do not go side to side. If you go side to side, the barrel will slip around the free edge. All you want to be able to do is smooth out that ledge, and then you're going to notice again how round it ends up becoming. You could do your final detailing at the very end. The cuticle area, I don't want to go side to side. I want to be able to work in one direction. So for me, I'm right-handed. So I'm going to pull in one direction towards myself and try to blend the thickness in the best I can. Once I'm done shaping the eye or taking the excess down, I want to be able to work through the rest of the body in one direction from cuticle to free edge, and then that's going to blend everything in. What you're going to be left with, right, is a nail where you're going to be able to take your hand file, right, and you're going to be able to do all your detail work. So if you set yourself up during application, you're not going to need to spend so much time getting around the cuticle area to blend it flush with the natural nail. And then what I could do is I could start working my file down. You're going to notice if I'm holding my hand file on the top like this, I get to use the whole entire surface of that hand file to work down on this side. You're going to notice my scratch lines, and I talk about this all the time, but like notice how my scratch lines, they run like really kind of diagonal, right? They don't run down, they run diagonal because my file is running this way, not just over the top. And then when I go over the surface on this side, I'm not pulling, I'm actually putting pressure going up, and then I let it fall. Pressure going up, let it fall. So you can go really slow and use a lot of the surface of that hand file, but all my pressure is going up and letting it fall. up, letting it fall. So once you're done removing a majority of that thickness, your final stage is always really going to be, right, to look right at it from this point. Now, again, this is an extremely long nail, but I wanted to be able to show you that your final point of filing is going to be working. If I make a peace sign, right? If I make a peace sign and then I rest it in between my knuckles, then I have my thumb, I have the whole entire surface of the hand file to rest it. So if I turn the customer's hand and rest it on the surface, I can kind of surf down the barrel of the nail so that I'm actually able to get it super even from side to side, right? And that's really going to set apart the nail. And then I could use, again, my sponge just to kind of get all that excess out. And then you can see what we're left with, right? And that's the thing, to be able to build, right, perfection from all angles. That's really what it's going to come down to, okay? If you follow the roadmap, it's going to make all the difference for you.
Thank y'all so much for watching towards the end of the video, and I will give y'all my final thoughts. For my first time, I feel like I did okay. I will rate myself 6 out of 10. I definitely want to perfect my shaping to get it super crisp, and my acrylic needs to be smoother. That way I do not have to take so much time filing the acrylic down to get it even. I did realize towards the top of the nail it is darker, which I should have went in and filed that acrylic down even more to match up with the rest of the acrylic color. I want to practice the basics of applying acrylic and learning my liquid to powder ratio and perfect my shaping before I start learning nail designs and adding the glitter and charms. Speaking for myself, the application has to be top notch, okay? That's it and that's all. This is why it is important to work on your craft and to perfect your craft, because shade, but no shade, some, and I mean some of y'all be doing acrylic nails and charging, but in reality, baby, you need to get back to the damn lab and the drawing board your damn self. No shade, but shade. Y'all acrylic be looking lumpy and bumpy and the shape don't be crisp as it should. But y'all be out here charging and then y'all be adding all types of charms, glitter, and rhinestones to cover up the shit that y'all need to be practicing more on. Like, y'all be using nail charms to hide them lumps and bumps in your acrylic application instead of perfecting the application itself. And for me, I don't want to do that. I don't want to skip over anything. I want to learn the basics before I move on to the next. But thank y'all so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. And I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.
100 rounds on a grata, real one like a shot,